Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new malicious compliance content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Replace the part and don't argue? Okie dokie. After college I took a job with an auto insurance company. No names, but some people have a weird fetish with their mascot. My job was to write estimates at body shops and try to save money. I was new on a team, but the manager never spent any time trying to train me or offer guidance, just kind of threw me to the wolves. I was at a shop and there was an area where two panels had split at the weld. I saw that they could be repaired and wrote the estimate to reflect that. The body shop wanted to replace the quarter panel, which is the panel that goes from the rear door to the rear bumper. Replacement is extremely expensive and a last resort, but the body shop wanted to cash in. The shop and I got into a heated debate over this, and they kicked me out of the shop for the day. In the following days, the shop called my boss and told them I was being unreasonable, and convinced her that they were right. She told me to go out there, pay to replace the panel, and under no circumstances argue. Malicious compliance. I go back out, and the body shop manager apologizes to me, shows me that they ended up repairing it like I suggested, and it looked perfect. I took a picture of the car to show it was repaired, and then gave them over $3,000 to replace the panel because my boss said so. There are notes that we make so corporate can follow our train of thought, and I quoted my boss exactly to show why I threw thousands of dollars away. Next one is titled, This MC Might Sink His Career. I work in a restaurant, and on this particular day I was on bar with a coworker. There had been basically no customers for a couple of hours, and we had already stocked up and cleaned everything we could reach, so we were just hanging out at that point. Enter Todd. He had recently been promoted from waitstaff to team leader, and had transformed from a genuinely cool and chill guy to an arrogant hardass practically overnight. He was always on everybody's butts to work harder, and could never admit he was ever wrong about anything. He comes in and is immediately on the offensive, which is fair enough as we were just kinda stood around drinking tea at that point. He's listing off all the jobs we should be doing, and in turn we confirm that we've already done each and every one of them. This seems to only piss him off more, and he starts listing more and more obscure jobs in an attempt to catch us out. He points to the large metal utility sink under the bar and asks if we've cleaned that. Yes, of course we have. He actually gets his phone out and uses the flashlight to peer down the half-inch gap between the sink and the wall. Oh no, you haven't, he exclaims, the smugness in his voice so thick you could spread it on toast. You need to pull this out and clean behind it. It has to be done properly. Pull it out? I ask. Yes. God, it's not hard to understand, is it? He huffs. Now, anyone who has worked in a bar or kitchen probably knows what one of these looks like, but for anyone who doesn't, you could conceivably be forgiven for thinking it was just a lightweight metal table, except for the fact that, it has a built-in sink on one end of it. But hey, boss knows best, right? I give my coworker a look. We both shrug, grab an end each, and heave as hard as we can. There was a wonderful combination of noises, the squealing of metal against the floor, a sudden crack, and what I can only describe as a comical boink, as a pipe broke off and clattered onto the ground. I'm not any sort of a plumber, so I can't give details about what broke, but we weren't able to use that sink for several days, and the metal legs left impressive gouges in the linoleum floor. Of course, we got yelled at even though we did as we were told, but Todd never quite lived it down and ultimately didn't last long as team leader. Next one is titled, All Tattoos Must Be Covered? Okay. Worked in a nursing home about 10 years ago as a RN on night shift. Had 2 small upper forearm tattoos, text, upon hire, but usually wore a jacket to cover them. Was never an issue if I had my jacket off, always struck up a conversation about my ink and the meaning behind it. One day, the director of nursing announced that all tattoos must be covered at all times as to not offend the residents or visitors. Okay, I worked at night, with patients who had some memory issues, so sure, whatever. Don't wanna offend anyone. Malicious compliance. Towards the end of my shift, I remembered the new rule. Management would be in soon. I took 2 large pieces of silk tape and covered my tattoos to prove the point. Management, noticing the tape on each forearm. Dalek_Max, what happened to your arms? Me. Oh well, you guys made that new rule that all tattoos must be covered, so I covered mine. Management. Oh, I didn't know you had tattoos. Me. My point exactly. You noticed the tape yet never noticed my ink. Soon after, the rule was thrown out. Next one is titled, No Running? Got it. So a few years ago I used to work at a tire store. Some characters to mention beforehand. My boss, Steve, and his boss Pete. Also, note that the shop floor, across the vehicle bays, was rather large. Now, Pete was the manager of the store and just occasionally peeked out, usually towards the end of the night. But Steve would watch the shop floor like a hawk, criticizing everything we did, while he did basically nothing. So one day I'm told to run deads, which basically just means getting all of the dead used tires to the other end of the store to wait for pickup. We do this because deads take up a ton of space, which you need to work on vehicles. Naturally, being a track athlete and loving running, I would sprint after depositing tires back to get more. Well, Steve notices this and pulls me aside. He tells me running isn't allowed just because I'm a kid, and that I need to walk like a proper professional in front of customers. Cue malicious compliance. Can't run, eh? Guess I'll just leisurely walk each individual tire, no matter how small, and walk back. Because we were already short-staffed for the night and trying to close, meaning everyone was working fast as hell. Not only did I look out of place, but tires were piling up taller than my head. This is not only annoying, but dangerous as hell and can also result in serious car damage. Pete walks out and sees this, and asks what's going on to Steve. Steve tells him I'm clearly not taking my job seriously, and they call me over. I tell him I was just doing what Steve told me to. Pete is upset since he wants to go home, so he tells me to sprint all I want, to the merry tune of Steve being berated. From then on, Steve never said a word about me running. Next one is titled, Customer with Anger Issues. A couple days back we had a customer, I'll call her Al for Angry Lady. She was the type of customer who I knew would be an issue. She gave off the aura of confrontation the moment she walked into the store. She came in fairly late and ordered 650 photo prints. This isn't abnormal for our store, as we run plenty of weddings and events, and I assured her I could have it done before close because she lived in some distant city and didn't want to make the return trip at a later day. As I start editing the photos, I notice that the images were very poor quality. The customer had made several orders, and many of the orders were duplicates of all these blurry and out of focus photos. It literally looked like someone plugged their phone into our system and dumped every photo they'd ever taken and just clicked print all several times. Being the good customer service rep I am, I called the customer and she was still around, so she came in and confirmed that this is what she wanted. Print everything. All 650. I told her I could skip the blurry ones, but she said no, print them all. Okay, fine, I'll do that for you. Anyway, I finish the order and pack it up, and send the email notification to let her know the order is complete. A couple minutes later she walks into the store, walks over to the counter. I place the box of prints in front of her. Me. Here's your order, is there anything else you want? Without skipping a beat she interrupted and said, Al, can I speak to a manager? I hesitate for a moment and ask her what's wrong. She asks to speak to a manager again. Me. I am the manager, what can I? Al. I did not order this many prints. At this point she's got a bit of a psychotic glint in her eyes, and the way she is smiling makes my heart stop. I just know this is about to explode. Me. Ma'am, I had you come in to verify. Al. This is too many prints. I did not order all these. My dad is paying for these with his pension, which is a pittance compared to what you make. I wanted this order on a DVD, not printed. Me. Ma'am, I work retail, I don't earn. Al. I want to speak to the owner. Me. He is busy. Al. I want to speak to the owner now. I am not paying for all these prints I didn't order. Me. Ma'am, he doesn't have time to waste arguing with you over what you ordered. At this point I'm just done with her cutting me off and arguing, and she's causing a scene. Other customers are watching with bated breath to see how this plays out. One customer at the kiosk computer shakes his head in pity for me. My coworker is fuming and barely able to hold himself back. The lady picks up her box of photos and starts walking towards the door. I thought she was just going to walk out with the prints and steal them, but her father walked up and took her back to the counter. I just want her out the door at this point, and she keeps making a fuss about how poor her father is in front of him. He's clearly embarrassed and offering to pay. Me. Look, I'll only charge you for 450 prints. Sound good? Al. Fine. She throws her credit card at me, pays and walks out with a smug smirk on her face. Her father stays behind a few moments to apologize, then quickly hurries after her. I know what you're thinking right now. Another one of those retail managers who will bend over backwards for an angry customer. Obviously my coworker was thinking the same, because he asked me why I let her pay for less prints after we'd clearly confirmed with her several times that this was what she wanted. Me. Remember the price break? He looks confused for a moment. We have a price break at 500 prints that halves the cost per print. Usually we'll give it to anyone over 300 prints, because that's a huge number to be doing at once, but as stated on our website the official break is 500. I did not give her the price break. Because the cost per print was significantly higher, the lady paid more for her prints than if she had have paid for the entire order and gotten the price break. My coworker and I had a laugh about it, then close up shop. After that week, when any problem customers come in, we would say, well, at least they weren't as bad as Angry Lady. Last one is titled, Your working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. To clarify a few things, this took place in Europe. I was a salaried employee, 40 hours per week. I left that job about 10 months after the event took place. I didn't get into trouble and nobody tried to fire me. My probation period was over and we have employment laws regarding constructive dismissal, so I knew their hands were tied. About 4 years back, I started a new banking job. All was well, just that the management was pretty strict with timekeeping, which was weird as we were back office. My experience was in a similar field at another bank, and we had flexible schedules and received time in lieu. But rules are rules, so I followed them. I learnt my tasks and got to know the wider team. Anyway, about 4 months in, I started to realize my senior manager didn't like me. I'm pretty assertive as a person, and I do know how to stand up for myself. He hated it. I would speak up during the meetings, ask questions, and give suggestions, and so on, while the team would stay quiet. The week everything went south, I was working overtime, which was, obviously, unpaid. On Thursday, I did nearly 2 hours of overtime. On Friday, I thought I'll leave a few minutes early as I was done for the week. My manager was off. I left 10 minutes early. On Monday, I come to work, and I got called into a meeting straight away. There were 3 of us in the room: myself, my manager, and my senior manager. Our conversation went as follows. My manager, I heard you left work early on Friday. Me. I did. I left 10 minutes early. Did you ask for permission to leave early? Me. It was 10 minutes. You know I did about 4 hours of overtime last week. Why are we having this conversation? Senior manager, because you left early without asking for permission. As a senior, you should be setting an example for the rest of the team. Me. Is this a joke? Your working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., not 9 a.m. to 5:50 p.m. You shouldn't leave early without asking for your manager or my permission first. Is that clear? Me. Got it. It's perfectly clear. I listened and started coming into the office at 9 a.m. and leaving at 6 p.m. on the dot. At first, they didn't realize what was happening, but the week after the meeting was the last week of the month. And let's say the last week of the month was intense. especially the final day. The reports had to be completed, signed off, and submitted before the month's end. We covered multiple jurisdictions and would deal with Southeast Asia in the morning and the Americas in the evening. Our team was expected to work overtime due to this. Here comes Friday, the last day of the month. Showtime. I'm at my desk at 9 a.m. sharp. Most of the team has already been at the office for at least an hour. I, of course, have a cup of coffee from the cafeteria because I was a bit early. My manager looks at me and raises his eyebrow, but he doesn't say anything. Work, work, work. Break time. We had 2 20-minute paid breaks and 1 hour unpaid lunch. I'm the only person to go on my break. Lunchtime. Everyone was eating at their desks, while I go to meet my friends for lunch. On the second break, I once again leave my workplace and go for a short stroll around. Back to work. About 5:45 p.m., I get a call from one of the senior managers in the US. She needs the report amended. There were 4 of us on that call. I'm doing the amendments as we speak and closely monitoring the time. I see it's 2 minutes to 6 p.m., 1 minute, 6 p.m. SM2. Rambling about the report. Me. Apologies, but I have to stop you right here. SM2. Yes? Me. It's 6 p.m. here. My day is over. SM2. Huh? Me. As per my management, my working hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., so I must leave now. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up on Monday. I logged off, got my coat, wished everyone a great weekend, and left. It was 6:04 p.m. Both my manager and my senior manager were dumbfounded by what has happened. Looking pale, and stare at me in disbelief. It was a glorious sight. I wanted to apologize to my senior manager that I wasn't able to leave at 6 p.m. on the dot, but I thought that would have been way too passive-aggressive, so I just left. I relaxed the rule a bit after a few months. Yet, I never did more than 30 minutes of overtime. Ironically, once my stakeholders understood that I will not be available for 10+ hours, they started collaborating earlier in the month. I would have most of my reports done and submitted by the last day of the month. Thanks for listening.